Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is the breakout room for the new member orientation on the Indivisible Truth Brigade call. We are so happy to have you here this evening. My name is Marla. I am a senior regional organizer for Indivisible. I use she, her, zer, or they, them pronouns. If you haven't done so already, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. You can share your name if you're part of a local group, the name of your group, what part of the country you're in, if you're comfortable sharing your pronouns, whatever you'd like to share as an introduction in the chat. So here's our agenda for the breakout room this evening. We'll go over just what is the Truth Brigade, break it down a little bit for you. We'll go over the Truth Brigade basics of how we operate. We'll go over some key vocabulary in Disinformation 101. We'll show you how to construct a Truth Brigade sandwich, and then we'll share some opportunities for you to get involved. We'll also have a Q&A section, time allowing, although with those hiccups, we might run over a little bit. So I just want to make sure that we honor people's time and try to get through as much content as we can, but not go at breakneck speed so you can actually absorb what it is that you're hearing. So what is the Truth Brigade? We are a community of grassroots truth tellers. So think Truth Brigade, think truth tellers. We effectively disrupt the flow of information or disinformation and misinformation, both online and offline. How do we do that? We strategically share powerful, personal, and unified counter messages to the most damaging and destabilizing lies. So how does this all work? We become trusted messengers. We don't engage with trolls. We don't repeat disinformation or argue. What we do is we positively prompt independent thinking and source checking. It's so important to check your sources. So here are some basics of how we go about doing that. You can join the Truth Brigade email list, and that link will be dropped in the chat for you. And then you personalize and share the messages that the Truth Brigade leaders provide. You can share those messages on social media. You can share it in blogs, op-eds, and letters to the editor. You can share those messages in conversations, in text messages, and trainings that you might be conducting. These messages are designed to effectively open minds and counter the most damaging disinformation. These new messages are released monthly. They're released in our webinars, in our weekly emails, and in the Slack community. We use best practices in non-engagement. So what is it that we mean by non-engagement? What are your thoughts? What do you think? You can drop your answers in the response. What do you think we mean by non-engagement? I'll give you a hint. I actually shared how we do it without using the words non-engagement. All right, I'm seeing some great answers in the chat here. So what we mean by non-engagement is that we don't engage trolls, we don't repeat disinformation, and we don't argue with people. You can learn more about the Truth Brigade and our tactics at indivisible.org/Truth Brigade. That's our landing page. And here are some ways that disinformation often makes people feel. If you notice yourself feeling this way when reading posts or listening to someone, it's a good reminder that you should check the source. So here are some really key definitions to understand. I know I've been using the term disinformation a lot. It would probably be really helpful to break down what we mean by disinformation. Disinformation is information that is false and deliberately shared for personal or political gain. I think of the D in disinformation and D for deliberate. That's how I remember that disinformation is deliberately done. Then there's also misinformation. You'll hear us using this terminology a lot too in the Truth Brigade. Misinformation is information that is false, but it's not deliberately shared to cause harm or to gain power. In fact, I will admit I've been guilty of sharing misinformation. When I find out it's not true, I pull it down and let folks know, hey, sorry, I thought that was correct. It wasn't, but I do pull it down. So I didn't check a source. Somebody corrected me. You pull it down. Then there's also this term malinformation that we're starting to use more and more this year. Malinformation is information using real data, but it's distorted and it's made public to do harm or gain power. We are seeing a lot of this in 2025. So, disinformers are often look like they're local. They want to appear like they're a concerned neighbor. That's how they're gaining your trust. They want to look like they're your neighbor. So you'll see them sharing disinformation on Nextdoor, on local talk radio, in fake newspapers. But while these disinformers appear local, they are often not even in your state, your part of the country. Sometimes they're not even in the country at all. But there are also sometimes are concerned neighbors who share incorrect information. And that's when we see it as misinformation. The key thing to remember about disinformation is that it is a bully. We usually see disinformation either targeted to or about vulnerable groups. When disinformation is targeted to vulnerable groups, it's meant to make people feel isolated and powerless. It's meant to undermine their trust in public institutions. When disinformation is targeted to others about vulnerable groups, it's meant to dehumanize people and make discrimination seem like it's okay. It's meant to divert blame for societal problems. Oh, the problem couldn't possibly be that I forgot to file my check. It must be that scapegoat over there and it's their fault. It's meant to exploit human tribalism, pitting people against each other and not looking for the deeper underlying problems that are causing the issues. So we're referring to 2025 as the disinformation age. There are false claims justifying cruel and illegal actions that have happened already to harm thousands of people. There are platforms that are being deregulated, so there's no way to fact check on them. There are government websites that are removing factual information. In fact, there's over 8,000 pages have been removed. The mainstream media normalizes the lies as part of this disinformation era as well. The thing is, it's still the same old bag of tricks. We're seeing it a lot in 2025, but it's the same bag of tricks that have been played for a long time. People see the same disinformation multiple times. They see it in different places. They're tricked into thinking it's from different sources. But in fact, there are a few hundred right-wing super spreaders that fuel most of this disinformation. So let's take a look at the disinformation playbook. Disinformers don't care about the issues. They may talk nonstop about immigration, but they don't actually care about immigration. They may talk about how they think climate change is a hoax, but they don't actually care about climate change or what's going on the ground for people. They don't actually care about crime either, no matter how much they rant about it. Their goal is always to gain profit and power. So how do they do this? They gain power by building a demand for their leadership to solve the fake problems that they invented in the first place. People believe this information. What do you think? I'd love to see you dropping some answers to this one in the chat too. Let's take a moment and think, why do you think people believe disinformation? Seeing some really good answers. I'm going to jump in and use some fancy terminology, but we're seeing some great answers in the chat as well. So there's something called confirmation bias. And when we have confirmation bias, we dismiss information that isn't ideologically resonant with what we already believe. There's also a lack of reflection. Who has time to stop and think about absolutely every single tweet or meme or message that this resonates with me, I'm going to share it? Who has time to stop and think about every single thing? Maybe we should all stop and take a moment to think before we share. There's also something called heuristics. Our brains perceive things that we remember as true. What do we remember? We remember rhymes. We remember slogans. We remember striking images and videos. These stick in our brain, and our brain says, oh, that must be true because you're remembering it. Disinformation is designed to engage our survival brain. When we operate under fear, outrage, stress, when we're in arguments, we don't think straight. We're in fight or flight mode. The emotions block our critical thinking. Fortunately, most people don't actually want to spread disinformation. Most people share together with each other the pursuit of truth as a common value. So let's take a look at some ways that we can identify disinformation. It's likely an intentional false claim. Remember, disinformation means that it's intentional, it's deliberate, disinformation, deliberate. It's most likely an intentional false claim, image, or video if the focus is on blaming somebody or a community, not on the solutions. It's likely disinformation if the headlines don't match the content. It's likely disinfo if videos or images have glitches where you can tell things were pieced together to form a message or are generated through AI. It's likely disinformation if the sources for contentions aren't supplied or they look really sketchy, they're from one point of view, they're from these newsletters that are clearly written by somebody who is expressing one point of view, their disinformation. And also when questions are deflected or met with defensiveness, or there's personal attacks rather than addressing when you're trying to get at the underlying, like this doesn't seem to make sense to me. Can you tell me more? Well, you just don't understand. So watch out for that type of thing. This is a great way to identify disinformation. Now let's take a look at identifying misinformation. It's probably misinformation or inadvertently shared if the person doesn't stand to gain power or profit. It's likely misinformation if the person connects the lie to an actual, authentic personal concern. You know this person cares deeply about something, and this seems in line with that, and this seems like, and they share it, and then, oh. So as much as 85% of disinformation is misinformation that's shared inadvertently. So you start with the people that are seeking to gain power, spreading disinformation intentionally, deliberately. And then the rest of us accidentally cause this ripple effect, and we spread it further and further and further as misinformation. So again, really check your sources. So by now we have probably convinced you that disinformation is bad and misinformation, even if it's not intentional, is still problematic. So what do we do about it? So we have the Truth Brigade system. We'll go through how we tackle disinformation. First, our advisors study disinformation and they identify the most damaging lies. Then we write evidence-based persuasive messages in the form of the indivisible truth sandwich to frame that for you and for you to personalize. Don't worry, we'll get to the Truth Brigade sandwich and show you how to build one in the next few slides. Part of the Truth Brigade system that's really important is we share the messages with you via monthly webinars like the one that we're on. They happen on the second Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern Time. We have weekly emails every Friday. There's a Slack workspace you can join where people are sharing this every day, and there's also Facebook. So you can share your version of the messages online. You can also do it offline. You can engage in productive conversations using this framework within your networks and when you're writing letters to the editor. Key thing to remember is we practice non-engagement and we amplify each other. We use different strategies to help amplify the truth rather than the lies. Rinse and repeat. We do it over and over again. Every month there's a new campaign, new things to do, but the old information still remains relevant. So let's take a look at the indivisible truth sandwich. The three key components of the truth sandwich are to discover, disrupt, and dream. So when we discover, we're stating truthful common ground and shared values. Disrupt, let's go back to that vocabulary word heuristics. We remember rhymes. So for disrupt, cause the pause. We're trying to get people to stop and think. So disrupt, we cause the pause. This prompts critical thought. We question motives and sources to get people to stop and think, oh wait, gee, that doesn't actually sound right. And then we get people to dream. We restate the truth and inspire action, emotion, and a hook to get people involved and thinking. So let's take a look at the Truth Brigade sandwich in the context of our current campaign, which is Dissent is Patriotic. So for discover, we can say something like, here in America, speaking freely is a bedrock. It's a right that matters deeply to us all. For disrupt, cause the pause. When leaders vilify those who speak out, I have to ask why? Is it safety or control? It's certainly not patriotism. And then dream. You don't defend democracy by silencing it. Speak up. Hashtag Truth Brigade. Hashtags are very important on social media. So where is it that Truth Brigaders share? The simple answer is, there's a lot of examples here, but the fastest answer is you share wherever you're comfortable. You can share on social media. You can share in blogs. You can share in op-eds and in letters to the editor. You can share in conversations. You can share in text messages. You can share in trainings that you might be conducting, or even in chat messages of trainings that you attend. We provide help for you to personalize your communications. It's not just copy and paste. If everybody's copying and pasting the same exact thing, it doesn't tend to have the same impact as sounding like it's coming from you. If people know you, they're like, that's not how you speak. That's not how you write your posts. So you are welcome to personalize those messages, and we give you some guidance on how to do that. The campaign messages always have message explainers to help you personalize those communications. And we also have accessible offline conversation guides. We don't speak to each other in person the same way that we write social media posts. So it's important to have guidance on how to have it in a conversational way as well. So where do you get started? We've convinced you, you're here. So you can use this QR code or the link that's going to be dropped in the chat to sign up for receiving Friday emails with announcements and actions. And you'll also get a hello from a volunteer mentor. This is a great way for individuals to get involved. And we have lots and lots of individuals involved in the Truth Brigade. I'm going to leave this slide up for just a moment in case somebody was taking their phone out to use the QR code. I don't want to click away right as you're trying to hit, yes, take me there. But again, the link is also being dropped in the chat if that's helpful for you as well. There's another way you can get involved too. You can do it as an individual. You can also work as a team. If you want to do a Truth Brigade work as part of a group, you select an ambassador for your group. That ambassador can sign up to receive special monthly emails to share with your group. The QR code for that is on this screen. So this is a different QR code than on the previous slide. If you want to work with a group and sign up for those special monthly emails, we refer to it as a cheat sheet. But just know that by cheat sheet, we mean you're getting these special emails with guidance on how to do Truth Brigade work as part of a group. So thank you for being here tonight. We will have questions and answers. I just want to make sure that you're also watching out for these things that will appear in the follow-up email that you get. The mid-August call, we're actually going to be talking about disinformation on the rural call. So Truth Brigade itself is taking a pause for the month of August, but will be featured in the rural call. We invite you to join there. And then there is a September kickoff and Big Truth launch. Again, these links will be provided to you in the follow-up email. And then as a reminder, you can put in your weekly calendar to do some persuasion time. You can schedule a communication coffee break for learning, message posting, and conversation. it's one thing to have the intention to do this, but actually like putting reminders in your phone to do these things can be really, really helpful. And now we'll open it up for questions and answers. We have with us today Cynthia. Cynthia is one of our super volunteers, and she will probably be giving better answers to your questions because she's really experienced at doing these things firsthand, much more than I have. So I'm going to probably turn it over to Cynthia to answer most of these questions, but I will chime in if you'd like me to.
And this is Kim. I'm here to help you guys field questions if you need me
Oh,
to.
excellent. Thank you, Kimberly.
Do you want to turn off the slide? Are we done with the slides then? Then we can see each other. Super.
Yes, I will do that now.
Okay. All right, let me change my view here. Okay, so there were a couple of questions in the chat that I'm not sure I know the answers to, but let me just let me just find them over here. Somebody asked how I can determine what a troll is, and you actually got some decent answers in the chat. Trolls are malicious. They're sometimes not even human beings. And they're trying to start fights. That's what they're trying to do. And part of the Truth Brigade's process is to not engage with the disinformers. So you're just going to ignore those folks. You're just not going to take the bait. That's the best thing to do. One of the reasons why we do this, I was so busy looking at a bunch of writing, I'm not sure what was said in the slides, but one of the reasons that we don't engage with the disinformers, that we don't engage in arguments, and we never, never, never repeat the wording of the disinformers is because every engagement with that disinformation ups it in the algorithm. It gives it more power in the algorithm. So we just don't engage. So yeah, just ignore those folks.
Cynthia, I have another question here, if it's helpful for me to read it to you. Is there a particular social media platform where fighting disinformation would be most impactful?
Yeah, that's a tough one. A lot of progressives have gotten off of Twitter, now X, and have moved to Blue Sky. And so you'll find a lot of love in Blue Sky. People will find your hashtag Truth Brigade hashtag, and they'll like you and they'll share you, and that'll be a good way to get started and increase your reach. But you're going to be increasing your reach in an environment that's kind of like a silo, like we're already there. However, there will be lots of people in Blue Sky who aren't as informed as you are, and so reaching them will be good. Okay.
I have another question for you whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the other social media places. Facebook is actually the one with the largest reach. How about that? Who knew? But it really is. So if you have a Facebook account, post there. Hashtag Truth Brigade. Post there. It'll be good.
So there were two questions about kind of the veracity of our information and the Truth Brigade messaging. So I think the question under the question is about the research that everything's based on.
One of the things I absolutely love about everything Indivisible, and especially, well, really everything Indivisible, including the Truth Brigade, is the research that people do. People are painstakingly accurate in the way that they look into the topic that they're talking about. They look into the disinformation around that topic. The explainers give you links to a whole bunch of different articles, and these are largely from news sources I recognize as legitimate. So I always feel very confident once I've looked at the explainer and I've clicked on a couple of links and I've read a couple of articles. I'm like, oh yeah, I get this. I understand this. And then I can do what Truth Brigade is asking you to do, which is to take this month's message and put it into my own voice, right? So I do actually read the explainers. I do click on some of those links, read a few more articles, and say, okay, I understand what we're talking about now, and I know how I want to relate to what we're talking about now, and then I can make that message reflect me specifically, which does work well. I'm sorry, was there a second part to that, Kimberly?
No, that's it, but I have another one on deck whenever you're ready.
Okay, I have one too. How do we get a link to the Slack? And this is technical stuff. I believe you have to upload an app, and I believe you'll have an invitation to do that in the onboarding for Truth Brigade. Does that sound right, Kimberly and Marla?
And there should be a link in the email, I believe.
Okay, so it'll all be relatively self-explanatory, but you kind of you have to get started. Okay. Another question, Kimberly.
Is there a delicate way to handle people on our side who are spreading incorrect or undocumented messages?
Okay, so you want to be careful again not to repeat the incorrect information. And so the Truth Brigade, the Truth Sandwich, follows a particular format. It is formulaic, and sometimes it doesn't feel as natural as the way you might instinctively respond, but it's very well it's very well thought out. So the first thing you do is you talk about what we all agree with. Yeah, everybody wants to be healthy and wants to be able to see a doctor when we need one. So, and then the second thing that you do is ask a question. So, why would we be cutting Medicaid from people? How is that helping us? And that question encourages the person that you're talking to engage their critical thinking so that they're now thinking about, why would we do that? And then the sandwich concludes with another statement about what we all agree with. Gee, wouldn't it be great if everybody could have health care that they could afford and feel very confident that they would always have access to good medical care? So that's the formula. What we all agree with, some kind of a prompt to get that person thinking, not just repeating what they're reading because it's salacious or something, right? And then a wrap up with the thing that we all agree with and the vision for what we want to have happen. I hope that makes sense to everybody. That's the way to do it. And the other thing too, and this was not what the question asked, but this is, I mean, the people I run into all the time. How do I talk to my, Uncle Joe, who just watches Fox News all day long? Right? So one of the things that you want to do there is you want to do more listening. It's hard. It's so hard to listen to stuff is false and twisted on top of false, but you want to listen and you want to try to pick out whatever it is that you both agree with. Listen, there is so much more that we agree on that pulls us together than it separates us. It's just the way it's been spun and thrown at people that's confusing the situation. So listen for what you both agree with. Yeah, we all want free and fair elections for sure. That's a cornerstone of our country. Absolutely. So what makes you think the 2020 election wasn't fair? So you want to listen, you want to hear what they have to say, not argue, not for the purpose of arguing, but just to understand where they're coming from. And you might be surprised. I mean, it's warped and it's twisted and it's wrong, but once you hear what they're afraid of, you might be able to come up with a response that is neither arguing nor trying to convince, but might allay some of those fears and then open the door for you to have more to say. Does that make sense? Was there anything else?
Yeah, there are two related questions. One is really about how we have to be patient with ourselves when we're learning to spot misinformation. And a question about disinformation. So if maybe you could talk about the difference between the two. And then there was a third related question about the best source for people to use to fact check information when they see it.
Okay, I love your confidence in my ability to remember three things. It makes me feel good. You must think I have that ability. Cool. Okay. Let me start with fact checking because that was the last thing you said, so I remember it. So there are a number of fact checkers, and it's really important to have a few kind of like in your back pocket that you can just pull out. Some of my favorites, well, there's PolitiFact, there's Snopes. They don't always have what I'm looking for, but I'll tell you one of my favorites is the Washington Post fact checker because it has Pinocchios. So it'll tell you, yes, this happened, or no, this didn't happen, and it'll rate it a one Pinocchio. Everybody knows Pinocchio was the puppet who lied, right? He wanted to be a little boy. Okay, and his nose got longer and longer every time he lied. So a one Pinocchio is a small lie, a two Pinocchio is a bigger lie. And then I think it goes to three or four Pinocchios. These are pretty big lies. And then the last one is pants on fire. And I just love it. So I love a little bit of humor. The Washington Post fact checker is really going to be about politics because that's what the Washington Post reports on. But yeah, so there are a number of of different fact checkers that are out there, and you can just go into your search engine, Google, whatever you use, and put in free fact checkers or political fact checkers or whatever kind of fact checkers you're looking for. Some of them might lean a little conservative, some of them might lean a little liberal, but mostly they're going to tell you these are the things that happened. Lots of times I find the answer in there wasn't really what I wanted it to be, but hey, it's a fact checker, so that's very, very useful. Okay, Kimberly, the first two.
Well, that puts us at 7:29.
Oh.
So.
Okay, we're so glad you're here. This is such important work, such important work. And so this is great. Everybody has the link to sign up for the Truth Brigade. You'll get an email. It'll give you a bunch of other information. You have your first message that you can work on. You'll see the explainer, and you'll see how detailed it is, how much information you get there.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much to Cynthia. I wish we could do like a room full round of applause that you'd actually get to hear. But fantastic job answering all of the questions. You're getting the emoji love, which is awesome. Thank you so much. And remember, if you want to join another new member orientation until this really becomes solidified for you, you're welcome to do that. We don't cap how many you're allowed to join. So feel free to join another breakout room for this if you're interested.
Also, if you join Slack, you can have conversations with me in the message workshopping channel. So we help you figure out, how to make your message be a truth sandwich. We're there for a second pair of eyes. We're there to help you, figure out if your message is working. So we're right there, so we can have those conversations. So that's also available.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.